stay in contention, really push themselves towards that top cut. So the leads could be important throughout this set.
Well, let's go ahead and see the leads right now, as Benny is going to be leading with the Charizard and the Grimmsnarl, and Aaron has the Charizard and the Indeedee.
Charizard and supportive partner. That's a pretty good lead. That's something that a lot of trainers have been using for a while now, particularly with Charizard rising to prominence right since we started playing in Sword and Shield. It took down that very first regional. It's been around since Series 1, so it's something that you can't ignore. Joe and I harped on a little bit earlier about GMAX Wildfire and just how good that is, so something to look out for, and both trainers really have the option to go offensive with the Charizard, but then there's going to be a huge difference in how they provide the support. The Indeedee probably looking to draw a little bit of attention away with the Follow Me, for example, but then the Grimmsnarl being able to set up something like the screens and really hindering the amount of damage that Aaron can do. So both trainers in a very neutral position here. I don't think we're going to have a clear advantage at the end of turn 1. I think that's going to show turn 2, turn 3, and further into the game. So both trainers taking their time here, locking in the moves. What they choose is going to be important, but to kick it off, what else were we expecting with 2 Charizards on the field?
Absolutely. A Gigantamax was bound to happen here, and the first one is going to be on Aaron's side of the field with that Gigantamax Charizard. This turn 1 is still very interesting, though, because having the Indeedee next to the Charizard, you could, potentially maybe draw away some of the fire from the Charizard, maybe, block some priority moves, who knows, but we do also have a Gigantamax Charizard on the other side of things, so it really does come down to what these supporting Pokemon decide to do in this turn.
It's going to be a tough decision for both trainers on how to optimize this turn. Indeedee throwing out one of the many options it has. This time it's the Helping Hand, and that could be a big difference. Grimmsnarl being very smart here, though.
Yeah, a little bit of offense coming in from Aaron's side, but Benny has answered with smart defense. But a Max Rockfall coming in from Aaron's Charizard. That Light Screen is not enough there, and that Charizard from Benny is going to be knocked out here.
Absolutely phenomenal decision-making there from Aaron, not just with the Pokemon he's bringing, but also the Pokemon move choices that he has access to. Ancient Power available on the Charizard, being able to turn that into Max Rockfall with the Helping Hand just to make sure. A huge advantage there that Benny's just given up. And don't forget, he just used his Gigantamax. He's not able to Gigantamax anything else to make up for it. So Aaron has carved out a huge advantage with just all-out offense. This could get a little bit tough for Benny, being forced to bring in the Zacian right away. That's not going to appreciate the Charizard either. And yeah, the Light Screen was in play, but it is clearly not enough.
No, it is not. And the Zacian here, it is fairly fast, right? Like, that is something that you can hopefully use as a way to be able to counteract some of the bulk and also just the power that the Gigantamax Charizard on Aaron's side of the field is pushing forward. But Indeedee using Follow Me.
Yep, that's really big for the Indeedee. Keeping that Behemoth Blade away from the Charizard, which would take more damage because, of course, it is Gigantamax. So being able to buy a turn with the Charizard after you hope to get a knockout, another really good turn, I think.
Yeah, the Indeedee is not going to be able to take that Behemoth Blade, even though it did have that Psychic Seed for the special defense. It is a physical attack that's coming through, but it does leave this Charizard open to be able to go for a G-Max Wildfire, but it is targeted into the Grimmsnarl, which, works out, I think, well in this situation. Even though the Zacian is still around, it's still going to be taking that chip.
Probably would have liked that over towards the Zacian, but maybe expecting the Zacian to protect and allow the Grimmsnarl to Spirit Break and lower that special attack. This is clearly going to be the new line of play, I think, for Benny, is land those Spirit Breaks and then, in combination with the Light Screen, be able to take those attacks. That said, you've got to be a little bit cautious about it because you are taking residual damage from the G-Max Wildfire every single turn, and now the boost has come through in the form of Drought, powering up those Fire-type moves to Aaron's Charizard. So yes, you lowered its special attack, but Drought is going to help make up the difference because it's going to boost those attacks. So the Zacian, again, it is in trouble even after the Spirit Break, even after the Light Screen. I don't see a place where it's super safe. The Grimmsnarl setting up a Reflect as well, but you're now leaving the Zacian to do all the heavy lifting on its own.
And Groudon's using Bulldoze? Okay, it obviously doesn't affect the Charizard, but you're really using it right now for speed control. So the Zacian and the Grimmsnarl are now going to be slower than this Charizard, and that means that Zacian is going to be knocked out before it can even get another attack off.
Aaron's kind of getting everything he wants here, and Benny has spent a lot of time with the Grimmsnarl trying to slow Aaron down, but it's just not worked. The Grimmsnarl falling as well from GMAX Wildfire. Really a tough game one for Benny, and I think back to the drawing board for game two is going to be the play here. There's no way to really force that comeback. The Groudon, I mean, yes, it's nice to have one of the restricted in the back, but I just don't see a world where it's able to take out 3 Pokemon on its own.
No, that's going to be super, super tough there. I mean, I think, especially seeing that we had a bit of a supportive build on the on Aaron's, like with the Bulldoze, I think that's really interesting. It also reveals a bit of information as well going into this game number 2 that if there's a weakness policy per se on the Solgaleo,
that's a whole strategy he's left at home, right? He's left just the other moves that lower speed. I don't want to reveal it in case Aaron's trying to keep it secret, so we'll save that one for later, but I'll let you ruminate on it as home as we get into game number 2.
Game number 2, bit of a different lead now coming out from Benny. It's going to be that Groudon and that Raichu, as Aaron is going with what worked in that game number 1. We will see the Indeedee and the Charizard once again, but based on the move options for both of these Pokemon, Aaron has plenty of different ways that this could play out.
Aaron's just going with that hyper-offensive lead. We know that the Helping Hand can come through and just power up the GMAX Wildfire and make it take a knockout that it might not traditionally get. On the other side of it, though, I do like that Benny has dropped the Grimmsnarl. Yes, it sat on the field for 3 turns last game, but none of those turns felt particularly impactful. The lack of, being able to take the hit even after the Light Screen and Reflect sort of showed that it might not be the one in this matchup. Yes, the Spirit Break tried to slow it down, but I just don't think it was enough. That is a nice adaptation from Benny to see that and then leave the Grimmsnarl at least out of the leads. It could be in the back, but I'd be shocked if it wasn't Zacian and Charizard to round this team out. The Raichu obviously has a better type matchup against the Charizard, but couldn't do the requisite amount of damage in the same way that Aaron's Charizard did to him in turn 1 of the last game.
Yeah, for sure. For this second turn, or the first turn of this game number 2, Aaron is still going to go ahead and Gigantamax that Charizard, but Indeedee has left the field in favor of his own Groudon. So maybe expecting some type of fake out or maybe an electric type attack going into that particular slot, but Benny's also feeling very confident here. Going to go for a Dynamax as well. And it's going to be the Groudon this time. I
like that. I think the Groudon can apply a lot more pressure back, and that should be the focus as the Dynamax Pokemon. It's got 3 turns to make an impact. Groudon may just be able to deal with a Charizard here, and that could be absolutely huge. But Charizard playing it very safe. I like that from Aaron, respecting the potential Dynamax on Benny's side and being able to guard against that with, of course, the Max Guard, which does prevent against those Max moves.
Ooh, but the Groudon gets switched into a huge Max Quake there, which ends up being a critical hit. It is able to hang on, but those special defense boosts right now going over to both the Raichu and the Groudon, that's pretty big.
That's really helpful if you're the, if you're on Benny's side of the field. I think you would have liked the Raichu to leave the field and then get something else in to take the special defense boost for it, something like the Charizard maybe. But, the Groudon took so much, and that switch in, really tough to justify when your Groudon takes that much damage. It's not in a position to really push on and be this focal point that takes a couple hits. That said, we know it's a Choice Scarf, so maybe all it needs is just 1 turn to land something like the Bulldoze, like it's doing here. It's next to Charizard, it's free to do that, and that is going to be the difference maker. The Raichu, of course, taking huge damage from it, and the Raichu might not be able to get out after that as well.
We're about to find out here, as it is going to be the Charizard that moves next. G-Max Wildfire under the sun as well, going right into that Groudon. Will take it to about half HP.
Yeah, the Groudon definitely taking a bruising there. But Raichu lands the Nuzzle. It didn't get to go first, which I think the Bulldoze definitely helped out there. But if you leave it alone, your Charizard's now paralyzed. So this definitely gets interesting. I think he wanted to paralyze it first, then, be able to max rockfall it. Didn't quite work that way because of the Choice Scarf Bulldoze, but still a really good turn there for Benny, being able to take out that Dynamax threat from Aaron's side of the field while he's still got his Dynamax going for another turn after this. Really nicely done.
Yeah, at least Aaron was able to set up the G-Max Wildfire chip, so that is going to be able to activate at the end of every single turn for the next few turns. And the Groudon is still here, so maybe getting locked into Bulldoze is not necessarily a bad thing, depending on what is going to be next to it. We didn't even see that fourth and final Pokemon choice from that game number 1. So let's go ahead and find out maybe what it is, unless Indeedee comes back out onto the field.
Aaron either has to throw back out the Indeedee or reveal his fourth and final Pokemon, which I would imagine saving the fourth Pokemon for the end is probably wiser, so Benny doesn't know all 4 and can't play around it. That said, though, this Groudon's got one more turn of Dynamax, and whatever comes on the field should be in a good position. It is the Grimmsnarl, maybe trying to set up those screens for a late game situation, but the reveal of the Solgaleo now gives Benny really good information on what screens he needs to set up.
It does give him very good information about that, but Solgaleo is one of those Pokemon that likes to run the weakness policy. And with the Bulldoze right next to it that Groudon is locked into, this makes a lot of sense, as this is kind of Aaron's last-ditch effort of making sure he's able to get out as much damage as possible when he knows that he doesn't have Dynamax or Gigantamax anymore, and it's just an Indeedee in the back. You know, that's going to be really tough if there might be like a Rillaboom in the back for Benny.
This could definitely be Aaron's go button, so to speak, where he just bulldozes, sets up the weakness policy, and just takes a knockout every single turn with Solgaleo. Maybe, if the Groudon gets knocked out, you bring in the Indeedee and you can buy it that extra turn or so. The Groudon's saving itself, doesn't want to bulldoze into the Solgaleo. Maybe a missed opportunity, or maybe just trying to save some information for the following game if it goes that far.
No, I really like this because, you might not want to be locked into Bulldoze for later. Maybe you want to reset the Choice Scarf, but the Max Quake is going to go right into the protected Solgaleo, and you're going to be taking more damage from that than you would have from the Bulldoze. But let's see what's going to happen here as we wait for those special defense boosts to proc, and there is the weakness policy. Yeah,
you gave it over, and maybe Aaron just reading into that, didn't need to proc his own. Just decided, you know what, I'll let you do it for me. And now this Solgaleo is really quite scary. I'm just going to be able to try and take a knockout every single turn. That's the goal. Indeedee's going to allow him to buy some of that time as well. And with the Choice Scarf in play, I actually quite like that. Being able to save that Choice Scarf Groudon for an endgame. Yes, it's sitting on, I believe it's 5 health. But being able to switch that in at the end, maybe in a one-on-one situation, and just win that matchup, could be absolutely essential. Maybe wanting to pivot to a different move. Doesn't want to just sit and bulldoze for the rest of the game. So this Groudon looking a lot easier to deal with now. It's not Dynamax. The Grimmsnarl, as we saw in game number 1, not able to apply the offensive pressure. So really, all the Solgaleo needs to do is target down Grimmsnarl's partners one at a time, leave it just struggling to really make that impact. Because it's not going to be able to throw out anything to lower the attack. And Indeedee's just making this a bit of a surefire knockout with the helping hand.
Yeah, Sunsteel Strike coming out from the Solgaleo. And this is really important to note as well, is that this Solgaleo is, Solgaleo as a Pokemon is very fast, but it will be targeting down the Groudon there, noticing that is going to be the more offensive threat to get rid of, as the Spirit Break comes through right into the Indeedee, but Grimmsnarl's not going to be doing too much damage to your team as a whole.
No, it's not an offensive threat. It's not something that people look at as a way to carry that game and clutch it out. So it's also just going to be whittled down by the G-Max Wildfire. It's not even been targeted yet. It's just taken that much damage between turns, which is absolutely crazy to me when you think about how impactful it is. The Zacian, revealed as Benny's last Pokemon, does get the Intrepid Sword boost, but it's not going to be an easy ride for it to be able to get through this Solgaleo at all.
No, it should still be faster. Just looking at kind of like, how quick these Pokemon are just side by side. But the Indeedee really makes this one difficult in terms of how do you even get the damage onto the Solgaleo to be able to knock it out? Well, and in the endgame as well, you've got Choice Scarf Groudon in the back. That's going to be a tough one.
While Indeedee, can't buy that many turns, it can buy this turn. And if Benny takes the bait, Aaron could just wrap this one up essentially in this game. The Sacred Sword, of course, not the target it was looking for. And this could take a turn here, to say the least.
Absolutely. Solgaleo going up into the sky once again for another Sunsteel strike as it connects with the Grimmsnarl this time. Really nice knockout there, but there is still that Zacian, but there is a Groudon in the back for Aaron that gets to freely switch in now because the Indeedee just got knocked out.
Yeah, the Indeedee just got felled, and Zacian getting a little bit as well from the G-Max Wildfire. Nobody is safe really in this one, but Aaron up 2 Pokemon to 1 is not going to take any damage from the Sandstorm, so Benny still has to hit the Groudon, and we know for a fact that Zacian is just single target, so it's guaranteed to be taking a hit in this turn. Of course, the Sun would help the Groudon, and that Groudon could just wrap up the game here for Aaron real quick. This is a surprisingly offensive team, considering the options on it, and Aaron has just powered through both of these games.
Yeah, this is such a interesting matchup for both sides, just because of the different Pokemon that are there really to support the Groudons and the Charizards, but Groudon with that choice scarf does go for the Fire Punch. It's not quite enough to be able to knock out the Zacian, so the Zacian is able to get off another attack with the Sacred Sword, but Solgaleo hangs on to finish the job with a Sunsteel strike to fell the Zacian, and that should wrap up this game and this set for Aaron.
Yeah, it's been 2 very quick, very offensive games, and I think Aaron has been in control throughout all of them. I like Benny's team. It's clearly a proven team, Zacian, Groudon.